What if the most powerful force in history wasn't armies, crowns, or even laws? What if it was something way quieter, something you can't even see? What if it was markets? Sounds a bit wild, right? But let's dive into this idea together and see where it takes us. For most of history, kings ruled with swords. They held power through control over land, people, and, of course, violence. They taxed farmers, commanded armies, and owned vast territories, but there was one thing they never fully controlled: exchange. Trade always found a way to slip through their fingers. Think about it, no matter how hard they tried to impose their will, people still found ways to barter and trade, often in secret or outside the king's watchful eye. Picture this: trade moved beyond borders, beyond walls, and beyond crowns. And that little detail changed everything. Markets weren't something states created. They popped up naturally wherever strangers needed to swap goods and services. There was no loyalty to a king, no flags waving in the air, just the straightforward concept of price. It's fascinating, isn't it? The beauty of trade is that it's a universal language. A farmer in one village could trade with a merchant from another, and suddenly they're both better off. This new system was all about rewarding efficiency, not blind obedience. It's like when you find a great deal on something you really want, suddenly that transaction feels good, right? And with that, a new kind of power emerged. Think about the great trade routes, the Silk Roads, the sea lanes, and those bustling merchant networks. Wealth started to depend on flows of goods and ideas rather than just land ownership. Kings ruled territory, but markets ruled movement. When trade routes shifted, entire kingdoms could decline not through invasion or rebellion, but simply because they became economically irrelevant. Can you imagine that? A kingdom crumbling not from a battle, but because it lost its place in the trade game. Merchants didn't need crowns, they needed contracts, trust, and credit. They built their own systems of power, and before long, they were funding kings, arming empires, and dictating terms. It's like watching a chess game unfold, where the pawns start to outmaneuver the kings. Slowly but surely, rulers became dependent on the very markets they couldn't control. The power dynamic was flipping upside down. It's almost poetic, right? Then came the rise of finance, and oh boy, did that change the game. Banks emerged, and suddenly, money could move faster than armies. Capital had the power to punish kings. If a ruler raised taxes too much, capital would flee faster than you can say financial crisis. If they broke trust, credit would vanish like smoke. Markets gained leverage without ever needing to wear a crown. Imagine a king waking up one day to find that his coffers were empty, not because of a war, but because traders decided to take their business elsewhere. That's a wake-up call. So, why did the kings lose their grip? Because kings ruled by force, but markets ruled by choice. You could be forced to obey a king, but you chose to participate in a market. That's a huge difference. States tried to regulate, control, and dominate, but markets adapted faster. They always do, and that's what makes them so fascinating. Think about how quickly technology has changed the market landscape. Remember when online shopping was just a novelty? Now, it's the norm, and it's reshaped how we buy and sell. Today, sure, governments still exist, but look at what markets decide: interest rates, currency values, global investment flows. A king could execute a trader, but a market can collapse an entire economy in a heartbeat. Power hasn't disappeared, it's just morphed into something new. And this isn't just theoretical. Look at the 2008 financial crisis. It wasn't a king's decree that caused the chaos. It was the market's own failure to regulate itself. But here's the catch: markets are incredibly powerful, but they aren't moral. They optimize for efficiency, but they don't give a hoot about fairness or equality. When market power grows without balance, inequality skyrockets and social trust starts to erode. History has shown us this cycle repeating itself over and over again. It's a little scary, right? You can see it in the wealth gap we're facing today. The rich get richer while the poor struggle just to get by. It's a tough pill to swallow. So, kings ruled the past and states rule the present. But it's the markets that are shaping our future. The real question isn't whether markets are more powerful than kings. They already are. The real question we need to ask is, who controls the rules of the market? If you want to understand the hidden forces that shape our world, you're in the right place. There's so much more to explore about how these dynamics play out in our everyday lives. From the way we shop to how we invest, markets influence us in ways we might not even realize. Thanks for hanging out with me, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that break down modern power in ways that make sense. Let's keep this conversation going, okay?